mugwumps. They're everywhere. They're speaking out. Board meetings, City Hall, Town Square, Courthouse, State House, even the White House. They must be stopped. They are disruptors.
They're disruptors.
Welcome everyone to Mugwump Media, and welcome to a hopefully fully operational Disruptor Central this week. Kevin,
Yes.
are the cameras on?
I really hope so.
That's good. I'm hoping so too. Now, would you like to address why you're wearing a pair of sunglasses?
Well, I've been thinking about joining a band.
Okay.
Well, that's not true. That's not what happened. This morning, I got up and I went, it was nice. I thought, I'm going to go, I had some weed whacking to do. So I went and got my weed whacker out, put my safety glasses on, took off, and I started weed whacking. And wasn't long, it started raining a little, just a little, not much. But anyway, I'm going along, and all at once, I really couldn't see. I was afraid it was going to fall. So I slipped my safety glasses off and just kept on whacking, and it wasn't long. Well, doggone if something didn't jump up and hit me in the eye.
Yeah, it's all fun and games till the rocks start
Yeah.
flying.
Well, I got to spend some time with the folks at the urgent care facility. Some nice folks up there.
That's
They
right.
took care of me. Said I'll be okay.
A few bucks and a scratched cornea later, here he sits.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all fun and games
Trip to
until
Walmart.
then.
Get some
That's
medicine.
Right. Don't try this at home, kids. Kevin is a billboard for safety glasses. This is yeah.
So far.
Yeah. Take your lesson from his accident. All right. Well, folks, it's welcome to Disruptor Central. Thanks for coming again this Sunday. And I have been collecting some cool information. I don't know if you all have been watching everything that RFK is doing, Health and Human Services, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but I've been astounded. Haven't you, Kevin?
I've been impressed, actually.
Yeah. I tell you, his dad and his grandpa would be very proud of him. And I don't know if you guys know this, mine and Kevin's family, they were both Democrats as far back as the eye could see, but they were a different kind of Democrat. They agreed with Harry Truman. They agreed with John F. Kennedy. Yeah. Was he a little bit of a loosey-goosey morally? Yes, he was. I think probably a lot of them were over the years. A lot of them we didn't know about it. But he was relatively conservative. And I tell you, I look at RFK, and it makes me remember some of the old Democrats, some of them that actually cared about the people. So now, would we agree with him socially? Probably not. I think he's doing a great job. And I think Trump did a good job putting him where he's at, for sure. Now, I was going to talk about, first thing he did, of course, you guys probably remember, he banned those food dyes. Kevin, that was a long time coming.
That was.
That should have been done a long time ago. The foods don't need those dyes, first of all. They were banned overseas because of all the horrible things that they do in lab rats. I mean, infertility and the whole thing. We don't want that for our kids.
Everybody talked about it. Everybody knew it.
Oh, I know.
Nobody would do anything
about it, for sure. Well, big bucks, all the...
Seems to be.
That's right. I think so too. But anyway, that was the first thing that he did. Then other announcements started coming down the pipeline. On May 15th, the Epoch Times came out with this headline: RFK Jr. orders review of abortion pill after alarming new analysis. Now, RFK made the comment, it was on record that Trump had asked him to review it. It was actually put in 2000. I don't know if you know this, Kevin, but it was actually okayed by the Food and Drug Administration in 2000, September, I believe. And they slid it in under pretty shaky circumstances. Basically, it was used as, according to them, a medicine for a serious or life-threatening illness. So now they're saying pregnancy was a serious or life-threatening illness. They just wanted to slide it in. And they only did, this is the crazy thing, the clinical trials that were done at that time included only 859 participants in the U.S. That's pretty shady.
That's pretty slim.
It is, and 1,800 in France. So this this analysis that they did, it actually started with Josh Hawley. Senator Josh Hawley highlighted an analysis of insurance claims. This was what they found, far more widely based and accurate than those limited clinical trials that were originally performed. And like I said, when mifepristone was approved in 2000, it was definitely under loose guidelines. Now, it was concluded, and this was done by the Ethics and Public Policy Center, and it was concluded that the real-world rate of serious adverse events associated with this drug, chemical abortions, is 11%. Now, originally, when it came out in 2000, they said it was safe and effective, and they only said that it was 0.5% chance of adverse reactions or effects. That's a big difference, Kevin.
A little very.
And the stuff that it does, oh my gosh, it's horrific. I've got the list right here in yellow, and basically it's sepsis, infection, hemorrhaging, transfusion from the hemorrhaging, apparently. And if anybody has ever heard of sepsis, it's very serious. It's a raging infection that basically just takes over the body, shuts the organs down, and you die, sometimes within short days or hours. So it's a horrific thing. Other things, hospitalization, ER visit, ectopic pregnancy down the road, apparently. Other life-threatening adverse events, cardiac, pulmonary thrombosis, anaphylaxis, and of course surgery because of all that. And honestly, that's probably because of the onset of sepsis, I would say. And then after all that, sometimes it doesn't even work. So the women go back and have a repeated surgical abortion at that time. But this is horrific. 11% is not acceptable. It needs to be kicked to the curb. RFK, I liked what he said. He's reasonable. He didn't say, although honestly, I think that I think it's horrible. But what he said was, he thinks the new data is alarming, and he clearly thinks it clearly indicates that at the very least, the labeling should be changed. Informed consent.
Yes.
And that is very appropriate. If people are going to risk their lives with this stuff, they should know what they're doing. Next up, on May 20th, this was the headline. FDA says no licenses for COVID-19 vaccines for many Americans without clinical trial data. And there you go again. In so many of these cases, the ones that they went after were because they could find no reasonable or credible clinical trial data. They weren't following the science. And you cannot have informed consent, which is what you got to have. A lady named Dr. Jane Orient she was the executive director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, stated to the Epoch Times, "At last, the FDA is recognizing the need for evidence-based medicine and controlled trials to support the concept of boosters without end."
Evidence would be good to have.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Before you prescribe that these ladies, these pregnant women, and these little kids take the boosters over and over and over. And there's all kinds of evidence of bad things happening to miscarriages and everything in pregnancy. So that's come about. Then it began to get a little bit more serious. 7 days later, on May 27th, an Epoch Times headline read, "CDC stops recommending COVID vaccine for healthy children and pregnant women." That was the next thing. And of course, whenever you talk about vaccines and children, Kevin, everybody's hair's on fire, of course. And with him, they've called him a vaccine denier forever, because he questions. He wants to know what's going on with our kids, what's going on with our society. Why are we so sick? Why? Let's find out why. Why is autism so rampant? These autoimmune diseases, these allergies, everybody has this going on now. I went to the doctor the other day, and that was one of the things that he talked about, is how autoimmune diseases are just running crazy. Anyway.
Something's up.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have got, let's see. Oh, I know what I was going to read you guys. The next thing that I saw was a statement by RFK on Fox News, and this one really set the media on fire. Here's what he said. This did not have to do with COVID vaccines. This had to do with children's vaccine, specifically the MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella. And for this one, guys, if mom and dad, if you have little ones around, I'm going to read some things that are they're difficult to hear. And it might be a good idea if you've got little kids in the room, you might, have them go play, or, you might put headphones in and listen that way. But basically, this is what he said on Fox News. The MMR vaccine that we currently use has millions of particles from or created from aborted fetal tissue. I don't know if you guys heard this or not. Millions of DNA fragments. And there are people who have religious objections toward those, and those people should be treated with compassion. Now, what did he mean by that? I think he feels that they have, without informed consent, they have shoved this witch's brew of fetal tissue. And folks, this has been going on longer than even I thought. And I'll read just a little bit about it to you here in a minute. But how could they do that to people without telling them what they were doing? That is one of the most ghoulish things I've ever heard. But he feels that people like us who don't agree with this should be accommodated by using the shots that they used before. I mean, they were giving vaccines years before these horrible, ghoulish concoctions with human fetal tissue were made. But anyway, folks, these are not the vaccines that we received as children, for sure. Now, I went on a deep dive, and I decided I was going to look up. I thought, okay, he's saying that there's fetal tissue in these shots, the MMR vaccine. I thought, I'm going to look and see. Well, so what I did is I went on Google, and you know how, you Google something, the question, it comes up. You can usually find it. It's usually right there. Oh, no. Basically, it was 4. I had to hit number 4 before I could find anything. And basically, it was everybody proclaiming how bad he is and how he's a vaccine denier and how he's a liar and he's a conspiracy theorist and he should be impeached and oh my gosh, you name it. But nobody really had anything to say other than try to refute what he said about the vaccines being made with fetal tissue. So on number 4, here's what I found. Vaccine ingredients, fetal cells. From the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, Vaccine Education Center. This is a big hospital, folks. This report, which was several pages long, was actually edited and put together, apparently, and reviewed by a doctor on January 16th, 2024. So this is relatively new. And sure enough, Kevin, front page, I looked down at the bottom, you know what it said? It said vaccines for chickenpox, rubella, the R in the MMR vaccine, hepatitis A, one version of rabies, and the COVID-19 Johnson & Johnson shot are all made by growing the viruses in human fetal cells. Aborted fetuses. It's true. And, as I was shocked that they would even admit it, obviously. Now, this is obvious. It's a liberal hospital. And the crazy thing is they were trying to make you think everything's okay, even though, yeah, they do this. But, there's nothing to see here. This is the modern way to do it. In the back, you're not going to believe what they said in the back. This was what made me the most angry. Here's what it said. It said, my religion is against abortion, so I don't want to get these vaccines. Are alternatives available? Well, here's what it said. It says, an alternative version of rabies vaccine is available. However, this is not the case for the rubella, chickenpox, and hepatitis A vaccines. They have nothing for people like us. This is what RFK was saying. and I heard him say it again at a town hall. He said there needs to be an option for people who do not like this.
Yes.
And then you know what they said? This pompous bunch of doctors at this modern children's hospital in Philadelphia said, religious leaders from the major religions, including Catholicism, have evaluated the use of these cells in making vaccines, and they've determined that it's not sinful to accept vaccines made in this manner.
The Pope does not speak for us.
Well, and it's not just the Pope.
No,
It's
and
other major religions.
Yeah, the term religious leaders, that's kind of vague. That doesn't sound much like science. If it was a scientific statement, it would quote who said those things and have something to back it up. So we're not dealing with science
How
here.
dare they speak for us? How dare anyone speak for us? They're not God. This makes me very angry. Anyway, just a couple of things about this, just to let you know, some of the stuff they were saying is not true. I do not believe. It talks about why they use fetal cells, and that's sickening. They use them because they're so young, and that way they have lots of replications. They can enslave them and use them for a long time. They freeze them. They can also, it says because they've been in the womb, a protected environment. They are away from other viruses and things. And this is where I found out they use different types of fetal cells depending on the virus, because apparently different viruses grow better in different kinds of organ cells and fetal cells. The fetal fibroblast cells are what they used in the 1960s. They started this in the 1960s, Kevin, and we may have gotten it. Because we got our first shots. We got our shots in 1965. They lined us all up and they gave us shots. We may have gotten this crap. Who knows? But anyway, it was from the elective termination of 2 pregnancies in the early 1960s. It could have been illegal it could have been legal in some state, but it wasn't nationally legal till 1972. Anyway, and of course, the retinal cells used to make COVID-19, it's different. In 1985, a terminated fetus in 1985, they took retinal cells, which I'm not sure what that is, maybe in the eye, I'm not sure, but to make the COVID-19 adenovirus, and they apparently adapted it to it. And here's what's sick. They even knew it was a boy. It was a male child. Anyway, can you say human sacrifice, Kevin?
Well, you know what? If we accept a lot of these things, we'd have to accept the donor party. What they did would not be. We couldn't hold that.
Oh my gosh, you're right. You're right. We'd be gnawing on a leg bone, wouldn't we? Those religious leaders would be gnawing on a leg bone for sure. That's right. Okay, so this addresses RFK's complaint about millions of DNA fragments in these vaccines, which we now know he was correct on. They basically take the fetal cells, they feed them with some kind of, what's it called? A promoter. It basically, who knows what it is, but it's something they put in there to make it grow. They inject the virus in it, and that's the sausage, Kevin. That's how the vaccine is made. Here's what they said about it. They said, even though fetal cells are used to grow vaccine viruses, vaccines do not contain these cells or pieces of DNA that are recognizable as human DNA. What does that mean? When viruses grow in cells, the cells are all killed, Kevin. Mm-hmm. Once the vaccine virus is grown, it is purified, so that cellular debris and growth reagents, whatever those are removed. During this process of purification, any remaining cellular DNA is also broken down. Now, again, this is from the Philadelphia Children's Hospital. This is how they're trying to make you think, oh, well, this is great. Nothing to see here. It's all broken down, washed away, and purified. Pure as the driven snow, Kevin. It says this purification part of the process is important for 2 reasons. The first, and perhaps most obvious, is the manufacturing reason. From a manufacturer's perspective, the desire for an efficient process that results in the purest possible product is what they want. But the second and more important reason matters more. Remember this. A pure product will not introduce unnecessary components that could trigger immune responses or affect us in other ways. Now, again, remember what I said about the immune things, the immune craziness that is going on in our world today and in the U.S. As long as it's pure, Kevin, pure as the driven snow, you don't have to worry about that. There's nothing there. There's nothing to see. It's been purified.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read you something that I saw about 7 months ago. A gentleman named John Campbell, you guys can look him up. He has a YouTube page, and he's a nurse in the UK. He's funny. He's kind of a wild-looking guy. I first saw him in 2020. Somebody from our church said, you need to listen to him. He's talking about COVID. You know, he's trying to figure it out. He had a poster behind him as he was doing his early videos, and it said, follow the evidence wherever it leads. So basically, he's a scientist. He enjoys, he wants to know the truth. God bless him. But he was basically going through everything that was going on with COVID. Well, just a few months ago, and he now says that it should be stopped. He says that the COVID vaccine is dangerous. And he said it should be stopped completely in all nations. And again, this is a guy who was very optimistic in the beginning and was trying to report to people which was the best one to take. Not so much anymore. He actually interviewed a gentleman named Dr. David Speaker, I believe his name is, and he's a very smart guy. He's done a lot of studying of these messenger RNA vaccination and documented some astounding results. Now, obviously, the COVID vaccinations and the childhood vaccines that I mentioned in the Children's Hospital report, they're different. But folks, they all use aborted fetal tissue. Johnson & Johnson uses it in the Petri dish, cooking up a witch's brew, making it there. That's how the sausage is made. Then they shoot it into the kid's arms, right? Some of the, like Pfizer and Moderna and some of them, I don't know that they use the actual, they use replicated RNA. So it's fetal tissue also. They just use it in a different way, but it all contains fetal tissue. All of it does. So here's what it says. Let's see. They all use aborted fetal tissue with promoter substances, whatever that is, to grow the virus used in the vaccine. Now, you heard in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia report how all of the cells are killed during the growth of the vaccine virus, right? They're all dead. And how they purify it so that cellular debris and growth reagents are removed. And during this process of purification, any remaining cellular DNA is broken down. Nothing to see here. It's pure as the driven snow. Well, according to some of Dr. Speaker's results, he collected 32 vials of vaccine from many countries. Now, this was COVID-19, but again, they all have to purify and they all contain human matter in their making. He referred to it, 32 vials from many countries, and every vial, when it was closely observed, had DNA contamination. 32 vials, Kevin.
Apparently the snow is not so white.
That's right. He called it plasmic DNA from post-process impurity. Was it human DNA? Was it growth agent DNA? It's hard to say,
Growth
but it was
agent,
DNA.
post-process. Yeah, there's a lot of terms here that are concerning.
But the bottom line, remember what they said, any kind of impurity could spark an immune response. Mm-hmm. This DNA impurity, according to procedure, should have been removed. But in the 32 vials that he observed, the manufacturing process had left it in. So much for purification.
Mm-hmm.
What about those unnecessary components that could trigger immune responses or affect us in other ways? I think that a lot of medical companies are making a lot of money doing a lot of things they shouldn't. And I think they don't want us to know the truth, even though our kids have suffered. I think that people have suffered. And all these immune crazy things that are going on, I wonder if that's what this is. And I'm hoping, pray to God that he comes up with the full truth and puts it out in a report. But you all need to know, and I am not going to tell anybody that you're an evil, horrible person if you get your kids those shots. But you need to know, folks, this is how the sausage is made, and it is evil. Evil. I wish I would have known. I wouldn't have gotten the kids shots. I guess I would have homeschooled them, but I didn't know. And you know what, folks? It's time for informed consent, and it's time to get back to real medicine, real science, and to bring back, where are the vaccines that they used all those years for people before? Why did they start bringing in this ghoulish stuff? I don't get it. We need to be helping people without using these evil methods, for sure. Well, folks, I've got one more thing, and even though it sounds awful and nobody wants to hear this stuff, Kevin, this is part of the awakening.
Exposure. It's necessary.
Exposure. And good. Robert F. Kennedy, God bless him. Pray for him. Hopefully nobody tries to shoot him, because he is coming out with things. The medical companies are going to answer for this stuff. I'm hoping. Anyway, I'm going to give you some really good news to end on today. You all are going to love this. Kevin and I, we actually deal with library stuff. We've mentioned that just a little bit. And one of the things that's very difficult is the fact that the medical community has basically embraced the thought of these kids transitioning both chemically and surgically when they're children under the age of 18 years old. Now, I suppose I hate it, and I think it's a sad thing. I suppose adults can do what they want to do. But changing your sex when you're a little kid, they don't even know what shoes they want to wear from day to day.
They don't know who their superhero is.
Oh, yeah. The books in the libraries and stuff, basically recruiting them into that type of lifestyle. That stuff needs to go. It's not a good thing. Well, this is something that has come about, and I'm going to end with this because this is good news. This came out just a few days ago, May the 30th. HHS, Health and Human Services, ramps up pressure on providers offering gender-affirming care for children. Now, this was actually Dr. Mehmet Oz, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And, of course, he's under RFK and the Health and Human Services. Here's what it says, and I'm going to tell you, this was a pretty... what's it called? Healthcare Dive. It's a pretty liberal article. So I went through and sifted the actual facts out. But some of the words are like, they're demanding. The CMS is demanding hospitals that offer gender-affirming care for children turn over financial information and clinical protocols related to the services. Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz gave unnamed select hospitals 30 days to respond to the probe, warning in a press release that he would not turn a blind eye to procedures that he says lack a solid foundation of evidence. And it goes back to that again. Mm-hmm. Show me the receipts. Show me that what you're doing actually works. Show me that it's a good thing to do. Evidence. In letters sent Wednesday, the CMS asked the hospitals to provide complete financial data for all pediatric sex trait modifications paid for by the government. Hallelujah. Basically, the CMS was Center for Medicare and Medicaid. Why would we be paying for people to change their sex? I mean, this is Doge. This is Health Department Doge is what this is. Accountability. That's what this is. Regulators also want hospitals to detail their informed consent policies for youth gender-affirming care procedures, how they document adverse events, again, and how they plan to update care guidance to align with the administration's view of best practices. And I love what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says. This is the best. This is great. On the same day, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. sent a letter to healthcare providers and medical boards imploring them to update treatment protocols for youth with gender dysphoria. He called it what it is. It was in the medical books. And then Barack Obama, I'll never forget, when he basically wrote one of the orders, an executive order, and made it illegal for people to counsel these kids with gender dysphoria. They're scared to counsel them now. It's against the law. To ensure that our nation's children are protected from harm. He went on to say, he urged providers to rely more heavily on psychotherapy, thank you, Jesus, as a treatment for youth gender dysphoria instead of puberty blockers, hormone therapy, or surgery. Common sense.
Yes.
Folks, this is good news, the best. In January, President Trump issued an executive order seeking to ban federal insurance programs from covering transgender care for children. Since then, multiple providers have ceased offering such services, including Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Penn State Healthcare, UPMC, and Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago.
It's necessary, yes.
Coming at it from a position of strength and boldness, and they're starting to shut down. They're operating on kids, dismembering, doing the things they're doing to children.
Causing harm.
They're doing it themselves because they know that there's a watchdog that's going to stop them from doing this stuff.
Yep.
Ghoulish activities. Kevin, what do you think about all this?
Well, one thing I remember about Robert F. Kennedy, one of the first things that caught my attention with him was when he was first come out and started talking about he was going to accept the position with Donald Trump. He talked about how many times he'd spent praying.
20 years.
20 years.
On his knees. Every morning.
His knees. That is, that's important. You know what? A man that sought God's favor to do something about this. That's encouraging. You're right. That is very good news.
This is good. This is Doge in the health department, and I'm telling you, folks, we're on a good path. You know, we've got to stay engaged. We have to stay engaged. Yep. Give people this information. People want to just ignore. They want to just move on, but we need to know. We need to hear. We need to be engaged and involved, and we need to have an answer when people start talking about this stuff. We really do. Well, folks, thank you again for joining us today. This was fun. This is good. Even though it was kind of a nasty subject, it's actually good because we need to know this stuff. And folks, we hope that wherever you're at, you're having a great and wonderful Sunday. Come back again next week. Bring some people with you. Make sure that you share, subscribe, and spread the word. And folks, together, we're going to stay informed, inspired. We're going to stay independent, Kevin. We're going to make up our minds. We're going to work through things. We're going to figure it out together. God bless.